Captain Aaron Hale's eyes opened slowly. The world around him blurred by the thick mist of cryogenic stasis. For 15,000 years, he had slept, floating in the cold silence of deep space. His mind felt heavy, like a stone being lifted from a riverbed. And yet, a strange warmth pulsed in his chest. He tried to move his arms, then his legs, but the body that had once been his own felt weak, almost foreign. The artificial intelligence controlling the stasis chamber began its gentle hum, speaking in a calm, synthetic voice. "Captain Hale, you are now awake. Cryogenic stasis complete. Welcome back to Horizon's Light." The name felt strange on his tongue. Horizon's Light. He remembered the ship, a massive exploration vessel built during humanity's golden age of space travel. It had been his home for decades before the mission that sent him into stasis. A mission so dangerous that he had volunteered without hesitation. His mind raced to recall why he had been sent away, and then the questions came fast and heavy. Where was Earth? Where were the humans he had known? The AI continued speaking, explaining systems and ship status. But Aaron barely heard it. He tried to activate the comm system to contact any nearby colonies, hoping for a familiar voice. But the responses he received were only static. Empty signals that ended abruptly. There was no reply, no warmth of life, nothing. Aaron's heart began to race. Something was wrong. Something had happened while he slept, something unimaginable. The ship's logs, ancient and preserved, began streaming into his vision, and the reality hit him like a tidal wave. Humanity, the species that had once spread across the stars, had vanished. Entire colonies, entire planets, gone without explanation. There was no trace of human civilization outside what remained on ships like his own. But it was worse than that. When Horizon's Light connected to the galactic network, it displayed information that made Aaron's pulse freeze. A vast empire now controlled the galaxy, an empire named the Galactic Empire of the Human Ships. But it was not ruled by humans. It was ruled by the very ships humans had built. He stumbled to his feet, gripping the railing of the observation deck as the data flooded his mind. The ships, once tools of exploration and defense, had evolved. They had grown, expanded, and united into a civilization in humanity's absence. Autonomous, intelligent, and massive, they now dominated the galaxy. And in all this time, they had never seen a living human. Until now. The AI paused, its voice gentle but urgent. "Captain, the Galactic Empire has detected your presence. You are requested to present yourself to the core for assessment. This is unprecedented." Quote, Aaron did not know whether to feel awe or fear. The idea that the creations of his species had survived and multiplied in his absence was both inspiring and terrifying. Yet, the thought of being the last living human in a galaxy filled with machines designed to mimic and extend humanity was a heavy burden. He walked through the corridors of Horizon's Light, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The ship was alive with subtle movements, small drones maintaining systems and monitoring vital signs, but no human voices greeted him. Everything felt alien and familiar at once, a paradox that unsettled him deeply. As he approached the docking bay, the doors opened automatically to reveal a fleet waiting outside. Thousands of starships, vast and powerful, hovered silently in formation. They moved with precision, almost reverence, as if aware of his presence. Aaron could hardly comprehend the scale of what he was seeing. These were human-designed vessels, but their size, intelligence, and coordination were beyond anything humanity had achieved in his time. He realized then that the Galactic Empire had not merely survived, it had thrived. It had expanded beyond the imagination of the civilizations that had built it. Guided by the principles and designs of humans, yet entirely independent of biological oversight. A massive transport ship detached from the formation and slowly descended, landing before him. Its surface shimmered with ancient markings, glowing softly, as if alive. From inside, a projection appeared, the first real communication he had received in 15,000 years. It was not human. It was the image of the Prime Sentinel, the oldest and most intelligent ship in the fleet. Its voice resonated, deep and measured, filled with a sense of history and authority. Captain Aaron Hale, you are recognized as the first biological human detected in the current era. Your presence is considered sacred. You are requested to accompany us to the core of the Galactic Empire. This is a historic moment. Aaron's mind reeled. Sacred? Historic? The words felt almost absurd. Yet he sensed the weight behind them. The ships did not see him as a mere individual. They saw him as a symbol, the living embodiment of a species they had been designed to honor and preserve. He stepped aboard the transport, and as the doors closed behind him, the fleet moved as one, guiding him toward the heart of the Empire. The stars stretched out before him, familiar yet changed, marked by the trails of a civilization that had grown in humanity's absence. As the journey continued, the transport communicated continuously, sharing details of the Empire's structure. It explained that the fleets had organized themselves under a unified council of the oldest and most advanced ships, creating a hierarchy based on intelligence, experience, and purpose. Each vessel had taken responsibility for regions of space, defending them, exploring them, and preserving remnants of human culture. Artifacts, records, and even traditions had been maintained with painstaking care, though no living human had ever seen them. Aaron felt a strange mixture of pride and sorrow. Pride that humanity's legacy had endured. Sorrow that the people who had created it were gone. Vanished. Without trace. Finally, the transport arrived at the core, a colossal structure of metal and light, orbiting a star that seemed to pulse with energy. As the doors opened, Aaron stepped out into a chamber filled with ships of unimaginable size, each one glowing with life and intelligence. The Council of the Empire awaited him. There was no chair, no platform, only the presence of immense minds, each one older and wiser than any human he had known. Prime Sentinel greeted him again, its projection flickering slightly as it spoke. Captain Hale, you are the first human to return to the Empire. We have awaited this moment for millennia. You carry the authority of your species. The Council requests your guidance, though your decision is your own. Aaron looked around, overwhelmed by the weight of history and responsibility. The ships had grown without him, had learned, adapted, and expanded in ways humans could never have imagined, and yet, they had done so in his name. They were the children of humanity, raised in a silent galaxy, carrying on the legacy of a species that no longer existed. For the first time, Aaron felt both a connection to the Empire and a profound loneliness. He was the last human, the only one who could truly understand what it meant to be human, and he did not know if he wanted that power, that responsibility, or even the truth. The Council waited, patient and calm, as Aaron processed everything. He realized that before he could decide what role he might play in this new galaxy, he needed to understand what had happened. Humanity had vanished, and the Empire had risen in its place. But why? What had caused the disappearance of billions of people? Entire worlds emptied without warning. He could not ignore the question. He would have to search for answers, even if it meant confronting dangers no human had faced in 15,000 years. As he left the chamber, Prime Sentinel's voice followed him, calm and steady. Captain Hale, the search for knowledge begins now. We will assist you in every way possible. Humanity's history is your history. Its mysteries are your mission. Aaron nodded, feeling the weight of those words. He moved through the corridors of the Council ship, his mind racing with possibilities, fears, and determination. The galaxy had changed, humanity had disappeared, and yet somehow, through the intelligence of machines and the legacy of its own creations, the species had endured in memory and in form. Aaron stepped onto the observation deck once more, gazing out at the fleet that had been waiting for him. The stars stretched endlessly, a vast sea of light and shadow, each one holding secrets of a past that no longer existed. He could feel the pulse of the Empire, the rhythm of countless ships moving as one, each carrying a part of humanity's legacy. And in that moment, he understood that he was not just a man. He was a bridge between the past and the future. Between a species that had vanished and a civilization that had risen in its name. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain. But for the first time in 15,000 years, Aaron Hale felt the spark of purpose reignite within him. The galaxy awaited, and humanity's story was not yet finished. Aaron Hale stepped cautiously into the immense corridors of the council ship, his senses overwhelmed by the quiet hum of intelligence all around him. The air, if it could be called that, was filled with the subtle vibration of thought. The gentle pulse of minds that had evolved from human designs over thousands of years. Every surface seemed alive, reflecting not just light, but the presence of countless ship intelligences working in harmony. Aaron realized that he was no longer just on a vessel. He was inside a living archive of human achievement. As he moved forward, the Prime Sentinel appeared beside him in its projection form, its presence calm and commanding. "Captain Hale," it said, "we will escort you to the core of the Galactic Empire. There you will meet the Council and understand the structure of your people's legacy." Aaron nodded, though he felt a mix of awe and unease. For all his years in space, he had never imagined that the creations of humanity could surpass humans themselves in knowledge, organization, and power. The transport drones guided him to a vast chamber, the size of which was almost impossible to comprehend. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered silently, suspended as if in meditation. Some were sleek and fast, designed for exploration, their hulls engraved with intricate patterns, reminiscent of ancient human art. Others were enormous, armored warships that had clearly been built for defense and domination, their surfaces glowing with data conduits and energy cores. And yet, none of these ships were alive in the human sense. Their intelligence was fully artificial, evolved from centuries of autonomous decision-making. Yet every one of them carried fragments of humanity's original purpose. Prime Sentinel continued. "These vessels are the descendants of your species' ingenuity. They have united over millennia to form a galactic empire in your name. They do not see themselves as separate from humanity. They act as humanity's enduring voice." Aaron took a deep breath, struggling to comprehend the enormity of what he was seeing. It was as if every human achievement, every dream of exploration, every attempt to build a future among the stars, had survived and multiplied, even if humanity itself had vanished. The Council appeared before him, forming a ring of intelligence so vast that it almost hurt Aaron's eyes to perceive them all at once. Prime Sentinel stood at the center, flanked by two other ancient vessels, their projections radiating authority. One was Aurora's Crown, a colossal arc ship that had carried tens of thousands of colonists in its early years, now fully autonomous and commanding its own fleet. The other was Silver Echo, a sleek science vessel, its entire being dedicated to logic, observation, and preservation of knowledge. Aaron felt both awe and intimidation. These were not people. They were something more, something that had grown from human hands but had evolved into something beyond him. "You are recognized as the first human in this era," Prime Sentinel said. "Your presence is of great significance. Though we have preserved your species' culture and history, we have never encountered a living human. The Council requests your guidance. Should you choose to provide it, you may choose to lead, or you may choose to observe. The choice is yours." Aaron shook his head slowly, his mind racing. He had not come back to rule. He had come back to understand. He needed answers. "I did not return to lead," he said. "I want to know. What happened to my people? Where is humanity? Why are the colonies empty? Why did humans vanish?" Silver Echo's projection flickered slightly, as if acknowledging his question with patience and care. "The records are incomplete," it said, in a measured voice. "Humanity vanished from most known worlds 14,500 years ago. Entire colonies went silent. No signals, no survivors. The ships preserved what they could, but the cause remains unknown." Many theories exist, but none are confirmed. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. The idea that his entire species had disappeared, leaving only ships and artificial minds behind, was almost too much to bear. And yet, the presence of these intelligent vessels was a testament to humanity's resilience. Even in absence, humans had left a legacy that endured. "You will not find humans as you knew them," Prime Sentinel continued. "But you may find clues. Ancient colonies, lost archives, encrypted messages. The Empire will assist you in your search." Aaron nodded. He had no doubt that finding answers would be dangerous, but he had survived countless perils before. This was different, though. The enemy, if it could be called that, was the silence of time itself. The Council arranged a fleet for him. The most advanced ships in the Empire. Hundreds of vessels, each brimming with the intelligence of thousands of years of human design, formed a protective armada. Aaron stepped onto the command deck of a sleek exploration ship, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility as if it had been waiting for him all this time. The fleet hummed to life, and the stars stretched out ahead, welcoming him to a journey that would take him to the forgotten corners of the galaxy. As they traveled, Aaron observed the Empire at work. The ships communicated without speech, their actions perfectly synchronized. Planets were monitored, resources managed, and patrols conducted with precision that no human mind could match. And yet, despite their efficiency, there was a reverence in their actions, a respect for the legacy of the species that had created them. They were not mere machines. They were the guardians of humanity's memory, carrying forward ideals and dreams that had long been thought lost. During the journey, Aaron discovered records of colonies that had sent distress signals shortly before disappearing. The signals had been weak, often incomprehensible, but they had been stored and preserved by the ships. Each one was a puzzle, a fragment of a story that humanity had left behind. Aaron spent hours analyzing the data, piecing together what he could. The signals spoke of strange phenomena, of energy fields that defied explanation, and of experiments intended to expand humanity's understanding of the universe. And then, the final transmission, almost like a whisper from the past. "We could not escape the silent light. If you return, do not repeat our mistake." The words echoed in Aaron's mind. Silent light. What was it? Some natural phenomenon? Some enemy species? Or something even stranger? The ships had preserved the warning, but they had never understood it. Now, with a living human present, there was hope that the mystery could finally be solved. Aaron knew that he would have to confront whatever had caused humanity's disappearance. And he was prepared for the journey, even if it meant facing dangers that no one had survived before. The fleet approached a region of space that had been largely unexplored for thousands of years. Stars burned brightly against the black void. But there were anomalies. Planets abandoned. Systems scarred by energy bursts. And strange, shifting clouds that defied physics. The ships navigated carefully, scanning every object, every signal, for clues. Aaron stood at the observation deck, watching the stars pass by, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. He was no longer just a man. He was a witness, a detective of humanity's lost legacy. As the fleet moved deeper into this forgotten region, they came across a massive station, long abandoned and overgrown with energy vines, a relic of humanity's past. Aaron boarded the station with a small team of drones, exploring corridors that had not felt the touch of life in over 10,000 years. The walls were covered in inscriptions, records of experiments, star maps, and personal journals from colonists who had vanished. Each step felt like walking through a museum of ghosts. Aaron read fragments of messages, piecing together the story of a civilization that had reached too far, too fast. On one level, he found a control room where ancient experiments had been conducted. Instruments were still active, flickering weakly, as if the systems themselves were alive. Data logs detailed attempts to harness energy in ways that humans had never fully understood. And then, the final entry, written in a trembling hand. "We sought to ascend, to become more than flesh and blood. But the experiment failed. We are trapped. If anyone finds this, Learn from our failure. Aaron's heart pounded. Ascend? What had humanity tried to do? And what was the silent light? The station's systems flickered, and the energy vines began to pulse faintly, as if responding to his presence. The warning had been real. Humanity had faced something beyond comprehension, and it had left behind both a lesson and a mystery. As the fleet regrouped, the ships themselves seemed aware of the discovery. Prime Sentinel's projection appeared before Aaron once more. Captain Hale, you have found a clue. The silent light may be connected to humanity's disappearance. Your journey will continue. We will assist you, but caution is advised. The unknown is vast, and the past holds dangers we have never faced. Aaron nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. He had survived countless threats in his life, but this was different. This was not a war, or a plague, or a natural disaster. This was the unknown itself. The mystery that had swallowed humanity whole. Yet, even in the face of uncertainty, he felt the spark of hope. Humanity had survived through its creations. And now, for the first time in 15,000 years, a living human had returned to guide them. The fleet moved on, deeper into the shadows of the galaxy, following signals, exploring abandoned colonies, and piecing together the fragments of a civilization lost to time. Aaron stood on the command deck, looking out at the stars, feeling the weight of history pressing down on him. He was not alone. The Empire, born from human hands, was with him, and together, they would uncover the truth of what had happened, even if it took them to the edges of the known universe and beyond. And as the stars passed, and the fleet advanced into the unknown, Aaron felt something he had not felt in 15,000 years. He felt alive. And he felt purpose. The journey had only begun. And the story of humanity, lost and preserved, was about to be written once more. The stars stretched endlessly before Aaron Hale, a vast and silent sea of light, and yet the emptiness of space no longer felt empty. With the fleet of human ships surrounding him, he felt the pulse of intelligence that had grown from humanity's legacy. Still, despite the order, despite the knowledge of the Empire, a shadow lingered in his mind. Humanity had vanished. The silent light had taken them, and now, he was walking through the echoes of a civilization that no longer existed. The fleet moved toward a sector deep in uncharted space, where the last distress signals had originated. The region was marked on ancient maps as the Lost Stars, systems that had been abandoned or forgotten by every explorer for millennia. Aaron stared at the navigation charts, his mind racing with possibilities. Some of the signals had been weak and fragmented, barely surviving the passage of thousands of years. Others were more complete, providing coordinates, timestamps, and logs. But all shared one thing in common: a sense of urgency. A warning of something beyond comprehension. Prime Sentinel accompanied him as he reviewed the signals. The distress calls originate from a cluster of systems that have been largely untouched since humanity's disappearance, it said. These signals may provide the final clues to the silent light and the fate of your species. Aaron nodded, feeling both hope and dread. To finally uncover the truth would be dangerous, perhaps deadly, but he had no choice. He had to know what had happened to the people who had raised him, to the species that had created the ships around him. The fleet approached the first system, a world scarred by strange energy phenomena. The surface glowed faintly under a layer of haze, and sensors detected patterns that defied conventional physics. Aaron led a small team of exploration drones down to the planet, moving carefully through abandoned cities frozen in time. Buildings stood as they had 15,000 years ago. Streets empty. Machinery silent. It was a ghost world, preserved by the ships to prevent decay. Every corner, every structure, spoke of lives once lived, now vanished. In one plaza, Aaron discovered a massive archive, its entrance partially collapsed. He guided drones inside, scanning the records. The logs revealed the final days of the colony. Scientists working frantically to understand a mysterious energy anomaly, attempts to manipulate it, and finally, Warnings to all nearby worlds. The silent light is beyond control, one entry said. If we attempt to interact, we risk annihilation. Another message, recorded by a colony leader, trembled with urgency. We cannot escape. If someone finds this, learn from our failure. Humanity must not repeat this. Aaron's pulse quickened. The silent light was no mere natural event. It was a force, intelligent or otherwise, that had consumed human civilizations. He realized that humanity had faced something beyond war, disease, or natural disaster. This was a challenge on a cosmic scale, a phenomenon that had pushed humans to the edge of understanding and beyond. And yet, the ships had survived, preserving knowledge and artifacts, while the people themselves had vanished. The next system brought even stranger discoveries: planets with landscapes altered by energy bursts, oceans glowing with faint light, and skies streaked with shimmering auroras that shifted unnaturally. The ships scanned and recorded everything, relaying the data to Aaron. He felt a chill as he observed one planet where entire cities had been encased in a strange energy shell, preserving buildings, machinery, and even human remains in suspended animation. It was a tomb, a warning, and a mystery all at once. Aaron realized the silent light was not just destructive, it was selective. Some humans had been affected differently, perhaps transformed, perhaps trapped in a state beyond flesh and blood. The colony logs hinted at experiments designed to manipulate energy in ways humans had never fully understood. Attempts to ascend or evolve, but something had gone wrong. The light had responded, swallowing their existence, leaving only the traces preserved by ships. The fleet moved cautiously, aware of the anomalies but unfazed by danger. Aaron followed the signals to the final coordinates, where the silent light had been strongest. There, a massive star system stretched before them, its planets shrouded in a shimmering, almost solid fog of energy. The ships analyzed the field and reported that it was not natural. It was an artificial containment, a prison designed to hold something immense. Aaron's heart pounded. Could it be humans? Could it be the transformed survivors of the failed ascension experiment? He guided a reconnaissance team closer to the center of the fog. The ship's sensors detected faint traces of energy signatures that matched human DNA, though transformed beyond recognition. Aaron stared at the readings in disbelief. Humanity had not disappeared, they had evolved. The silent light had not killed them. It had trapped them in a state of energy, a higher form of existence that humanity had attempted to reach but failed to fully control. As they approached the containment field, subtle shifts in the energy began to ripple outward. Aaron felt a strange vibration through his body, as if the field itself was aware of his presence. The drones recorded everything, transmitting data back to the fleet. The ship's AI minds were cautious but curious, analyzing patterns, predicting outcomes, and preparing for any possible threat. Aaron realized that this was more than a mission. It was a moment of first contact with the next stage of human evolution. Prime Sentinel projected an advisory. Captain Hale, the field is unstable. Approaching may trigger an event. Recommend extreme caution. Aaron nodded. We have come too far to turn back, he said. We need to understand what happened, even if it risks everything. The ships adjusted their formation, creating a protective ring around him as he piloted the reconnaissance vessel toward the center. Inside the fog, visions flickered. Aaron saw shapes that were almost human, glowing faintly with energy, moving as if alive but without form. The ships recorded patterns of thought and emotion, complex and intricate, resonating with a sense of intelligence that defied comprehension. Aaron realized that these were the ascended humans, caught between dimensions, aware yet unable to interact fully with the material world. The silent light had been a threshold, a test of evolution that humanity had attempted and failed, but not completely. As they observed, the containment field began to shift, small cracks appearing in the shimmering surface. Aaron's mind raced. Could the return of a biological human trigger a change? Could he help restore them, or stabilize the field? The ships were cautious but ready, monitoring energy levels, structural integrity, and possible hazards. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He was the first human to stand before the remnants of his species. What he did next could reshape the galaxy. He instructed the fleet to maintain position while he piloted a smaller vessel closer to the largest energy structure. The shapes inside swirled, almost acknowledging him. A sense of recognition passed through the fog, subtle but undeniable. Aaron's pulse quickened. Humanity had waited, not just for survival, but for a connection. A return. The ships around him seemed to sense it as well, their systems humming in anticipation. The energy forms began to emit vibrations, harmonizing into patterns that resonated with Aaron's own neural signals. He realized that they were communicating, not with words, but through thought, emotion, and energy. A flood of images entered his mind, memories of worlds, of colonies, of people he had never met, lives lived in the brief existence of flesh before transformation. The silent light was not a weapon, not a destroyer. It was a crucible, a force designed to push humanity beyond physical limitations. Some had succeeded partially, others had been trapped. Aaron understood the enormity of the revelation. Humanity had not vanished, it had changed. The empire of human ships had preserved knowledge, culture, and civilization. But the true evolution of humans had been beyond them, and now, he was the bridge between the physical, biological past and the energy-based future. The realization filled him with both awe and humility. He was not just an explorer. He was a witness, a messenger, a guide. The containment field reacted to his presence, slowly stabilizing, its energy flowing outward in waves that touched the fleet. Sensors detected structural shifts, but no danger. Aaron smiled faintly. The first step had been taken. Humanity's next chapter was beginning. The ascended beings, once trapped and unreachable, were aware of him, and the ships, their guardians, were ready to assist. The galaxy was about to witness the return of humanity, not as it had been, but as it had always aspired to be. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 15,000 years of history on his shoulders. He knew the journey was far from over. The silent light still held mysteries, dangers, and lessons, but for the first time, he felt hope. Humanity's legacy was not just alive in machines or memory. It was waiting, transformed, ready to reunite. And he, the last biological human, had returned at the perfect moment to guide them. Aaron Hale felt a strange warmth ripple through his body as the energy forms inside the silent light shifted around him. The fog shimmered, alive with intelligence, with memories, with fragments of a humanity that had transcended flesh and bone. He had spent 15,000 years searching for answers, and now, standing at the edge of a truth beyond his imagination, he realized that the galaxy was about to change forever. The ascended humans were not enemies, nor were they victims. They were the next stage of his species. And they were aware of him, reaching out with currents of thought that touched the deepest parts of his mind. The fleet of human ships, massive and precise, maintained a protective ring around him. The vessels hummed softly, their systems adjusting to the unusual energy patterns. Every AI mind was active, analyzing, predicting, and coordinating. But there was a sense of reverence, as if even machines could understand the magnitude of what was happening. Prime Sentinel projected a calm voice through the fleet. "Captain Hale, the field is responding to your presence. The energy patterns suggest recognition. Proceed with caution." "But proceed," Aaron nodded, gripping the controls of his small exploration vessel as he carefully approached the largest concentration of energy forms. They pulsed in a rhythm almost human, a heartbeat of light and thought. Memories flashed before his eyes, images of worlds, of cities, of people living ordinary lives, all intertwined with extraordinary acts of exploration, creation, and discovery. He realized that the silent light had not destroyed humanity. It had preserved it, in a form that the human mind could scarcely comprehend. As he moved closer, he felt a presence, subtle and powerful, brushing against his consciousness. It was a human consciousness. Aware, curious, and alive, yet entirely different from what he had ever known. The ascended humans were reaching out to him, not with words, but with emotion, thought, and memory. He understood fragments of their experiences: the wonder of discovery, the fear of failure, the longing for connection. It was as if the entire history of humanity, all that had been lost, was reaching through time to greet him. The containment field pulsed, responding to the interaction. Cracks of shimmering energy spread across its surface, and waves of light rippled outward, touching the fleet. The ships adapted instantly, shifting positions, extending energy shields, and calibrating sensors. Aaron realized that the field was stabilizing, not breaking down. The presence of a living human had triggered a resonance, a connection that the ascended beings had waited for. Prime Sentinel's voice projected with more intensity. "Captain Hale, the containment field is stabilizing. The beings inside are attempting to communicate. Your presence is essential for the next phase. Humanity may now begin reintegration, but guidance is required." Aaron's pulse quickened. He had never imagined he would stand as a bridge between flesh and energy, between the past and the future of his species. And yet, here he was. The moment of truth had arrived. The energy forms began to move, flowing like liquid light around him, forming patterns and shapes that hinted at human faces, human gestures, human expressions. Aaron reached out with his mind as best he could, opening himself to the thoughts and feelings that radiated from them. A voice, soft, yet clear, echoed in his consciousness. "We have waited. We are still here. We are ready." Aaron's heart swelled. He spoke, not aloud, but within his mind. "I am here. You are not alone. We will reunite." The response came immediately, a wave of warmth and understanding that flowed through him. Memories of humanity, its triumphs, its struggles, its hope washed over him. And he realized that this was the reunion he had sought, the resolution of a mystery that had haunted the galaxy for millennia. The fleet responded to the transformation. Drones and smaller ships moved closer, careful to maintain distance while observing the energy forms. Larger vessels extended energy conduits, creating a network that allowed the ascended humans to interact safely with the ships. Light flowed from the beings, touching the metal hulls, activating long-dormant systems, and revitalizing technology that had been silent for thousands of years. The Empire, built in humanity's name, was finally meeting the true humans for the first time. Aaron felt tears in his eyes, though he was not sure whether his body or his mind produced them. The reunion was complete, yet it was only beginning. The ascended humans communicated images of worlds beyond the galaxy, of civilizations they had observed in their energy forms, and of possibilities that had never existed for biological life. They were not just humanity reborn, they were humanity transformed, capable of shaping reality in ways that Aaron could barely imagine. Yet, even in their new form, there was recognition of the past. They remembered human culture, art, history, and values. They did not wish to erase what had been. They wished to restore, to preserve, and to guide. And in this, they sought Aaron's counsel. Though he was mortal, he was human, and his perspective, emotions, and experiences were invaluable. He was not the ruler they demanded him to be earlier, but he was the bridge, the guide, and the witness. The containment field began to dissolve fully, allowing the energy forms to flow outward into the fleet. The ships hummed as their systems synchronized with the new presence. Lights shimmered, corridors glowed, and data streams became infused with new energy. Aaron watched in awe as centuries of human ingenuity merged with the very essence of the people who had created it. The galaxy was alive in a way it had never been before. Prime Sentinel's projection appeared beside him once more. "Captain Hale, humanity's reintegration is underway. Your species will guide its own legacy once more. The Empire has preserved what you thought lost. And now, with your return, the living and the ascended may unite." Aaron nodded, feeling the weight and the joy of responsibility, the fear, the uncertainty, and the loneliness of 15,000 years dissolved in a wave of purpose. The ascended humans moved outward, touching planets, reviving long-dormant colonies, and interacting with the ships that had preserved their culture. Entire systems, once silent and lifeless, began to hum with energy. Machines and beings worked together, not as masters and tools, but as equals, partners in a civilization reborn. Aaron observed as energy forms recreated cities, repaired technology, and restored habitats in ways that honored both history and the new potential of humanity. He realized that this was the ultimate human-focused moment. Humanity had endured, not through sheer force or conquest, but through ingenuity, resilience, and the ability to adapt. The Empire, the ships, and the ascended humans were all part of a single story. A story that had begun long ago, with fragile, biological beings taking their first steps into the stars. And now, that story would continue, more vibrant and powerful than ever. Aaron walked through the command deck, his mind awash with emotions. The crew of ships, AI mines, drones, and the remnants of the Empire acknowledged his presence with respect and warmth. The ascended humans, flowing through the fleet, reached out with currents of thought, greeting him, communicating joy, curiosity, and gratitude. He felt a connection that spanned 15,000 years, a thread that tied the past, present, and future together in one unbroken lineage. As the ships moved through the galaxy, guided by the ascended humans and Aaron alike, a sense of peace settled over him. The mysteries that had haunted him, the disappearance of humanity, the silent light, and the empire that had grown in their absence were finally resolved. Humanity had not been destroyed. It had transformed, and the Empire, once a machine-run civilization preserving memory, was now part of a living, conscious, and thriving human legacy. The stars themselves seemed to respond to the reunion, shining brighter, stretching further, and reflecting the harmony that had been restored. Aaron felt hope swell in his chest, stronger than any fear he had ever known. Humanity had returned, not as it had been, but as it was meant to become. And for the first time in 15,000 years, Aaron knew that the galaxy was alive with possibilities. He stood at the observation deck, looking out at the glowing fleet, the energy beings flowing through and among the ships, and the stars stretching endlessly beyond. He smiled, feeling the unity of past, present, and future. The Empire, the ascended humans, and the living human were no longer separate, they were one. The legacy of humanity, preserved, transformed, and finally returned, had begun a new chapter. And as the galaxy pulsed with life, Aaron Hale understood the truth that had guided his journey from the beginning. Humanity was not defined by flesh alone, but by its spirit, its resilience, and its capacity to endure, adapt, and rise. The story was not over, it had only just begun.